this in-class exercise 8. And the first part of it, we're going to walk through this master Android master detail flow tutorial from Technotopia, and just basically go through that and work through that. But it's a nice tutorial. That won't take, that'll probably take us 15 minutes, I think. And then we'll spend another maybe half an hour doing some more things with the tutorial and setting some more things up there. So again, we're just going to walk through. You might want to bring this up and put it up in a window, and certainly there's some code here we'll be copying over and using. So first thing we need to do is create a new project. And give it some name. So this is in class 8 master detail website. So again, I'm just giving it some name here, and then I'm going to make sure we select the master detail template. So we want to use this template, the master detail template, as we go. And also here, this page where we talk about the object kind, you can look in the tutorial, and again, we're going to be monitoring websites, basically making a little bookmark app where you can have a set of websites kind of marked, and you can just jump to them quickly. So we're going to call our things website and websites. Android Studio has been updated a little bit since here. So we have we'll have website and websites, and then the title can just be websites also here. It's nice to put in the names here, because then the names of your fragments and your class will match the ones in their code, which is really handy. So again, website and websites, just like they show in the tutorial here, website and websites. And then we can hit finish and wait for this to start up. So again, basically we're creating an app. If I scroll down at the end here, like in a tablet, they'll list a couple websites. In this case, they list 3. You click on one, and it opens up the website in this detailed view over here. On a phone or smaller screen, it would just, oops. On a smaller screen, it'll just show the detailed list first of the website names. You click on a website name, and then it'll open up the detailed view, and we'll see the actual website in that detailed view. So that's kind of what we're going for today. And again, we're just going to modify the master detailed flow for that. All right. So again, if you remember, we've got these, like if you look under the Java programs, the Java files, we've got the website list, which is the first view that lists the websites. And again, we have an activity and a fragment for that. And then we have a website detail, which lists the details. And in our case, they'll actually will display a website on it. And again, we have a fragment and an activity. Most of our work will be in the fragment classes, because the activities just contain the fragment. So once we have that set up, and it comes all set up in this template, we generally don't have to work much with the activities. The only time you do is sometimes if you're changing what information being passed from fragment to activity to fragment here. But we're just using, and generally in this model, we try to just pass a single number or a single string from one place to the other, some key to our data or our database that we're working with. Okay, let's go look at our tutorial now that we have this up. So what have we done? So we did our website, talks about all of our stuff here. So now we're going to start modifying the template. First, we're going to modify the data model, the dummy item that's out there, and we're going to put some new code. We're going to, for every website, we're going to store the ID, and this is the kind of the key that's passed from the detailed fragment or the list fragment to the detailed fragment to tell it which one to pop up and things like that. So we'll keep the ID there. We'll add the website name and the website URL. So I'm going to go into here. And if you remember, there's this dummy folder here and the dummy contents in that. And there's a class and then a subclass of this. So dummy content is the array list. It's both an array list and a map of our items. And then there's something called dummy items down here. And we're going to modify dummy items here. And for this time, we can probably just take this code here inside dummy items, the string, the website, and this, and just replace what's in here. I'm going to put it after here for a sec so we can just kind of compare. So originally we had an ID, a string, and a string content. And this we just said item 1, item 2. Now we're going to have an ID, a string for the website name, and a string for the website URL. So we're adding an extra string there. So our constructor here, before we just passed in the ID and the content. Now we're passing in the ID, the website name, and the website URL. And again, we're setting all the local variables equal to this. Now, I kind of like this code. I always struggle with when you're doing like a constructor and you're passing in things like an ID and you're using it, or a setter, and you're setting the ID variable. There's different ways of doing this. Sometimes I just say new ID here, and I'll say ID equals new ID. Sometimes I'll do capitalization. So if the member variable is capitalized one way, I'll have the parameter capitalized another way. This is a nice way. That's one thing that's nice to see about this code, where they call the parameters the exact same things as the variables in the method. So then they just have to say this.id equals ID, this.website name equals website name. So when they say this.id, they're talking about the ID variable declared in this class. But when they just say ID, they're talking about the ID parameter into this constructor. So it's just one way of organizing, whenever you're doing like a setter method or a constructor, we're passing in some variables and you're setting variables to those, and they almost always have the similar names. This is just one way of doing that. Does that make sense how that works? The this dot? Kelly's nodding right. Ah, makes sense. Good job. And then the toString method. This is what we're going to use to display something on the web, on the detailed list, and we're just going to display the website name. We're not going to use the URL here. Okay, so I'm going to delete the previous stuff here and just leave that stuff in here. So now, let's see. I'm going to go to now we have this static creation stuff up above where we created 3 dummy variables. and we provided the ID and just the item 1, item 2. We're going to have to change this because now our constructor is 3 things. So again, I'm going to grab this information here. Right now, we're going to leave it all static till we get this working. We'll go through this tutorial exactly as it is, but then our first job after we're done with this tutorial will be to take out all the static stuff. So again, I'm going to grab this static declaration where I call out these 3 variables, scroll up here, and again, they're highlighted as being red here because the constructor is no longer working. And I'm going to comment out those. So again, before we said static and we called the add item for the dummy item, and we added 3 dummy items. Again, now our dummy item constructor, we changed that just below to have the website name and the website URL, so we're going to have to change how we're calling this constructor here. Okay, so that was just a cut and paste. So now it's going to change our data model. We're going to come back here later on, again, as soon as we're done with the tutorial, and we're going to change the name. We're going to get rid of all this dummy wording here and change it. But we'll get to the tutorial first, and then we'll come back. Now, the next thing is in the detail view. In the detail view, we want to view a website. So when they click on one of these names, we're actually going to view the website here. So there's actually a web browser that you can put on your page to show a website. So that's what we're going to have to do. The detail view will just be a web browser. So what does it tell us to do here? Okay, so we want to find the fragment website detailed XML file and paste this stuff into it. So this web view, I'm going to paste that in. So again, change the detail pane. So it's, again, the website detail, the fragment, not the activity. The activity one just contains the fragment. So I'm going to go in here and find not activity, fragment. So I want to make sure I'm in the fragment website detail. The detailed view, so this is when I've found something in the list, clicked on it, and I open up the detailed view. We used to just put the name of the fragment here. And again, we need the fragment, not the activity. So if I look at the text, I don't even know if we've seen something like this before much. We usually have a linear list or some other grid view, some other thing here, and then we have text views in it. They just have one thing that takes up the whole page, and that's a text view. So again, because again, they just put the text. So when we did this before, it says this like item 1 or item 2. It's the only thing that was displayed here. So we're just going to delete that and replace it with a web view. So I'm going to just delete this all and replace it with this web view. And the ID for this is website detail. And so we're going to have to make sure in our code, we used to, the old thing was called text view or item detail.
I was just curious, is there a reason why you moved the closing tag web view down?
No, I just think it looks better.
Okay.
And if you were trying to, parse this, I just then it's easier to see that this web view starts here, and then this is end tag.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so no reason. So, okay, and again, the one thing is our new ID for this was website detail is our web view. Now, you could technically, well, I mean, I don't know how to drag things from the palette onto here when I don't have a layout. It doesn't seem to be rendering it right and drawing things, because it seemed like I could have just clicked on the text view and deleted it and grabbed this web view and dragged it onto here, but I couldn't get that to work in this design view. And again, in the tutorial, they don't tell you to do that either, so I don't think they could get it to work. So I would think maybe in Android Studio 1.02 or 1.2 or something, they might fix some of this design features. Okay, so we just pasted in our website, our web view here. Going back to the tutorial. So now we just have a web view here. So now we have to change our website detail fragment class and change the code in that. So I'm going to go into website detail fragment, and that actually shows that it has errors right now. So some of this I am grabbing, so this is my detail view, and I'm getting passed in the ID of the item that we clicked on from the list, and I'm grabbing that. So the onCreate actually is grabbing these arguments and from this bundle and grabbing the argument ID. So this is the 1, 2, 3, whatever item we clicked on. Then we're going to use the item map. I don't know if you remember the item map, but we have an item array and a hash map. The hash map says if I'm given a string for the key of the ID, it'll grab the content from that. So I'm actually using the hash map here and providing the ID. So none of this is actually changing. This all still works. So M item is the item I clicked on. It's a dummy content item that I clicked on. And if you remember correctly, we redefined the dummy content. It used to have a content variable, and now it has a website name and a website URL. So down here in the onCreate view, we find the website detail, and we have this content here. So we've got to change this so that we're putting the right the URL. We want the website URL to do there, and I don't think we can do a set text. Okay, so let's go to the tutorial. Here's the one thing to watch is if you're copying pasting this whole stuff, I wouldn't grab the package unless you use the exact same package they have. So if you're just grabbing the whole file and copying and pasting, watch the package, because your package is probably going to be different. So I usually just grab from the package on. But okay, at this point we need to modify website detail fragment. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, and here's their onCreate view. I'm going to grab that onCreate view. And because you see there's some dots, they're skipping a bunch of code in here. So actually you can't just grab this whole thing or replace it because of these dots. So I'm just going to grab the onCreate view here and go into my code and find the onCreate view, which is right at the end, and paste it. And I'll show the two of them side by side so you can kind of see what they're doing. I'm trying to just get my line spacing to match a little better so you can kind of see how similar these are. Okay. So here's the old onCreate view. Here's the new onCreate view. We inflate the website detail, that fragment. So that's puts the fragment in there. That's fine. We check if M item is not null. That's it. They've clicked on an item, and this is the item we have. This is a dummy item now. And before we used to use the item content. Oops, I grabbed. I did that lesson. So this was the old view. I have to scroll down. This is what it's supposed to be. I have to grab this code. I just pasted in their code over this. Okay, so I grabbed they showed what it used to be. I'm going to scroll down and make sure you grab the, once this change has been made, so this is the new stuff. I've got to put that in here. I was wondering why it was exactly the same. So Okay. Now, before we were setting a text view and we're using the content here. Now we're setting a web view. And again, we're getting find view by ID, grabbing the website detail, and then we're loading. Rather than setting the text, we're saying load URL. So in a web view, you can just say load this URL. And then we're using this M item, which is linked to our dummy content, mitem.website URL. It doesn't know what web view is. I got to import that. So I'm just going to right click and alt enter. And it should put an import up here for WebKit web view. And I'm going to delete this old. I'll just comment out this old one. So again, the main thing that was changed was this one line here. It was a text view, and now it's a web view. We do a find view by ID. One thing to note is when you're in fragments, you've got to use this root view.find view by ID rather than just find view ID, which you can do in activities.
Yeah, do this one.
So that looks right.
Root view, you should be right.
Go.
Oh, is there an extra?
Yeah, you have an extra return underneath it. That might be.
Oh,
Yeah.
That might be it.
right here?
But it's not finding this website URL.
No.
Let's go to your dummy content. Something's not right there. Scroll down and see what's static. So somehow we got lost up here. Go up here and see. Scroll up just a little bit more. Static. So you've got an extra bracket in there.
This one?
Yeah. Okay, so that. Okay, that's look. No, so there's no red line there. So now I'll go back to here and let's see if that's right.
Yeah.
Purple.
You.
No public views room. Is it your extra?
So.
It's the extra root view thing you've got down here.
You right here?
Yeah, you should only have.
Which one's the extra? Like this?
You should only have 2 brackets.
Oh,
You have an extra bracket too.
oh, shoot. Hold on.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is
Oh,
eliminate
yeah,
that
this one.
get rid of
Yeah.
that bracket and this return root view. And
Yeah, I
that should be okay.
I have a question.
I think you still got an extra bracket there.
One more
Yep.
question.
Okay.
I kind of lost you in the dummy part right there.
Okay.
Where's the part we're supposed to copy and paste it somewhere around here?
That one.
So this dummy item stuff.
Yeah.
So grab this whole
Okay.
public
Weird.
static.
No.
So grab the scroll down more. This see this box, this whole dummy item. Grab that whole thing
Can you see it just
and then go
Put it right here.
and then replace that dummy class with the new one you just pasted. So that whole class should go away. Yep. That looks good. That'll help.
Is it the con? The,
Is it the content that's making this red?
this. It looks like I have the
You-
right number of brackets.
Delete this. Right. Can I just look at brackets real quick? You see, we don't need. We should comment this out.
Oh.
That's our problem. So we'll just comment that out too. Okay. Yeah. There.
Okay, cool.
It was just that method was defined twice,
Okay.
above and below.
Oh.
So. Did you replace all the static variables in the dummy class? So there should have been, in the tutorial they have you deleting these and replacing with those. I think you did that already. Okay. All right, so we should have our website set up. So now our website view should load the actual website. We'll call this load URL, and we'll pass it in the URL. So in our web view, in our detailed view, it's actually display the website for us. So I think that pretty well wraps up the stuff we can run the app. Now, if we run the app, I'm gonna start up a emulator. So I brought some of the phones and tablets here if you want to grab one and run. Sometimes they're faster, but you can just run it on emulator too. So I'm just going to run this on emulator so you can see it. So I'm going to start up the emulator and then explain to you the last thing we have to do. Okay. So we haven't talked too much about the manifest and permissions. I don't know if you've ever installed a new Android app, and when you install it, it says this app needs permissions to go on internet and view your contacts and this and this. There's a whole list, and it's amazingly long with some apps, more than it should be. That's because you set in permissions in your app. What permissions this Android app needs. If you're developing correctly, you should only put the permissions you really need in your app. But a lot of sloppy developers will just put in a whole bunch of permissions there. Because, again, so if I run this app right now, it won't work. Because I don't have permission to go on the internet with the app and in the manifest. So if I wait for this to run, and I won't, if I were to wait for this to run, it would run just fine. I'd see my list of website. I click on a website, it would bring up the detailed view, and it would say cannot connect, and it would give me like a 404 error or something. It would seem like I don't have internet connectivity. And you'd think, oh, maybe my Wi-Fi isn't on, or you go all through all this debugging. I've been there. And you realize all it is that your particular app doesn't have permissions to use the internet. And again, you need permissions to use the internet, to use like when we do GPS, if you want to access the GPS directly, we'll need permissions to use that, and stuff like that. So we're just going to go in here where it says adding manifest permissions, grab this one line, users, permissions, Android, permissions, internet. So we just need that one XML line. So I don't want to worry about the stuff above or below because I'm just going to paste that one line in and copy it. Now I'm going to go in, and again, we haven't talked much about, but there's this manifest page which has the information about our website, and there's about our app. And I can open up the Android manifest. Every time we add an activity and an intent, it puts it in here. So that's why if you're adding an activity or an intent, you should generally, and I think we've been doing this, right-click and say Add Activity, because besides creating the class, it actually puts it in here also. If you just added a class and made it into an activity, you'd run into some problems. But we're up here right before the application tag, right there. That's where we're going to paste. So this is our permission right there. We have to paste in this one uses permission Android name and then the android.permissions.internet. So this will give our app permission to use the internet. And again, it has to be above the application. It has to be in the manifest. It can be anywhere. It can't be inside the application tag. It can't be inside the manifest tag. So again, I've got to watch where this tag, manifest tag, is beginning, ending, and where the application tag is beginning and ending. So I'm just putting it right there. Okay, let's see if we can run this app though. Okay, so we're going to rename these. I'm going to right click on this and choose refactor, rename. It's Shift F6 as a shortcut. And I'm going to call this site list. Hit enter. Now, sometimes for some of the inputs, it won't do the refactoring right away. It'll display a status screen down here, and you'll have to say, OK, refactor. So watch that. This one, it just renamed it and should have changed it in all the right places. So if I scroll down to the dummy items here and do refactor and rename, I'm going to call this site items. So now it didn't actually do the changes. It changed it back, but it brought up this find refactoring preview down here, so I can, because it's doing lots of stuff, particularly stuff in comments. It sees stuff in comments, and it doesn't know about should we be changing things inside comments or not. Okay. So that's what's pulling out is you have these dummy items inside comments, and it's freaking out. It's, oh no, what should I do? So you can just say do refactor. We don't have to refactor the comments because I'm going to delete those. So again, watch when you refactor, sometimes it'll pop up that window. It won't seem to refactor, and if you try it again, it'll just pop up more windows down below. So okay, so I have a site item. So that's looking pretty good. It also changed, again, Java, the name of the file has to match the name of the class, so it's named the file here. We still have the dummy folder there. Let's change that. Let's just right-click on that folder and do refactor, rename on that folder, and call it site data or something like that. So again, we've renamed our classes and the folder they sit in. And again, I like to use refactoring because it just works so well with the renaming and everything, every place that exists. Okay, let's see how our list is coming. Okay. Okay, next we're gonna, a lot of this stuff is still static. I've got a class and I've got a static array list, a static map, and all the data I'm adding in static. I really don't like, static is just a little shortcut way of doing this in the demo. We don't want to do that for real. Again, that puts it in a special memory area off the stack, and you can only have one of these active at a time because it's static. So we're going to get rid of a bunch of this static stuff and just make this into a normal class. So let's just go through here where it says static. I'm going to delete that. Here it says static. I'm going to delete that. For now, I'm just going to copy out, I'm going to comment out this whole static constructor, or where I create these. I'm going to move that somewhere else eventually. Okay. And this static here, this static here. I think there's 4 or 5 statics here. I don't want to have any statics in this whole class. So this will just be a normal class. I have to declare a variable of that class somewhere and call a constructor for that class and stuff like that. Without the stacks, I didn't have to call the constructor. I didn't have to have a variable of this class. Now I will have to do this. So just removed all the statics and commented out these. Just the word static. Yeah, and comment out that section, that one section where we declare our variables. Where we call the constructors here, we're calling the constructors inside a static thing inside this class. We just don't like that. It's good for the example because it made it shorter and easier to do, but if we're going to do this for real, we don't want it there. So where do we need a variable for our list of websites. Where should that be? If you remember, we've got a list activity tied into a list fragment, and that feeds into a detail activity that feeds into a detail fragment. We tend to put most of our code in the fragments here because the activities now just contain the fragments. So most of our code is in our fragments. And again, if we want a variable that holds a list of websites, we want to put it in here because we'll pass that information from here on to here. Okay, so we'll put the list right here in our list fragment Java code. So what is that called? So that should be called website list fragment. Website list fragment. And it's also, good hint, it's also the only one that has an error right now because we've killed all that static stuff. It is confused. So it was down here. Where was it? It was using items, which is from our site list. It was calling the static array right there. And it's calling items down here again. I think those are the two. I thought one of the other things I thought was calling the items map. So, okay, so we're going to declare a variable in here to hold our this array list of items. So it's called a site list is my class. So I'm just going to go. I'm going to go here right above my onCreate for now. I'm going to declare, not in the inside, but outside the onCreate. I'm going to say public site list equals new site list. Add items, and I'm going to just be lazy and copy this other one over there, the Amazon one, and do another bookmark. Let's add St. Scholastica here. I'm going to add another bookmark for St. Scholastica. This will be ID 4. So I've created some bookmarks here. The other thing I have to do in these is that there are places where I refer to my items array list using site list. I now have to change that. I have to refer to items from my bookmark. Bookmarks are my variable. So here, where it says site list.items, let me comment that out and put in the correct version. It should be bookmarks. So again, it used to refer to this static array list inside site list, inside my class. It was static. Now I've moved this into a variable called bookmarks, and I'm saying bookmarks.item instead. And I think there's one other place where I have to do that. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Here, where items is here. I have to make sure that it says bookmarks.items. So again, it used to say site list.items because items was static, and so I could just use the class name and then items, but I made it non-static, so now I need a variable of that type, bookmarks, and then I can say bookmarks.items. Is this whole static stuff making any sense to you at all? It takes a while to get wrapped around this static stuff, and I don't know why they did their sample and static things. I think let's see, what do we have to do here? Web detail fragment. Oh, okay. That's a problem. So rather than passing the ID down to the detailed fragment as a string, let's just pass the URL. So we won't pass the ID down. We'll just pass the URL down as an argument to the detailed fragment. So we're going to go into website list fragment. Oh, maybe that's not going to work. I'm just trying to look at, there's an on item selected here that's being called. And just trying to figure out how that information is getting called to the on item selected here. Oh, it's passed back to the detailed activity. On item selected. No, not the detailed, the list activity. On item selected, and here we're sticking in this argument, the website from this ID here in our extras, and that's being passed. So it's often weird how this information is getting passed. So really, I was showing it this way, but how this works is that we are passing from the list fragment, we're passing the ID back here to the list activity, and that's passing it here and over to here. So this ID is moving around through, because this fragment doesn't talk directly to that fragment. So,
Can you go back to the website list fragment?
website list fragment, this one?
Go up a little bit, please.
Keep going.
Right there.
That one?
Oh, that was
So I'll look at this and figure out what's going on and figure out a better method for passing this information. Like I said, I thought I had it all solved, but I didn't notice in my code I still had the static variable and was using that in that one place. So why don't you just turn this in as is, or at least why don't you just turn in a description saying you worked on this today. Don't turn in anything. And then again, we'll look at I'll show you a complete version on the Monday after break. So just go on the Blackboard and just tell me that you worked on this. We've just got to, right now it passes this ID around, and we just have to change it so it doesn't just pass that, it passes the URL rather than that string here. Okay.